Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, the 20th of June, and it is Mental Health Monday. I'm so excited to be with you. I'm Mayor Chris Jenson, Mayor of the City of Noblesville. It is wonderful once again to join you on a Monday morning as we explore, talk about, and have an honest conversation about mental health here in the City of Noblesville and across the country. Because, Kristen, as you and I know, we have people all over the world tuning into Mental Health Monday, which is awesome and exciting, and we're honored. I'm constantly honored by those who come up to me or send me notes on social media or text me and let me know that they've been watching us on Mental Health Monday. I am joined once again by my good friend, an incredible human being, someone who offers her time, volunteers her time to lead us through this conversation. Kristen Boice, owner of Pathways to Healing's Counseling. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning, Mayor Jenson. I'm so happy to be here with all of you and with you. I love these conversations. I look forward to them every 2 weeks. So happy to be here.
Great. Well, I hope Mark had a wonderful Father's Day for all you fathers who are out there, or father figures. That's obviously very important as well. I hope you had a wonderful day with your family. I know I certainly did. Kristen and I got to go to breakfast at Rosie's in downtown Noblesville. I got to go watch my son hit an over-the-fence home run at Noblesville Youth Baseball for me on Father's Day, and won a championship in his tournament for baseball. And that was awesome. That was so fun. And then just be smothered with love by my cute 4 kids, and just had an absolutely wonderful day. So I hope Mark did as well.
He did. We were driving kids around, which is exactly what it's all meant to be. You know,
I said that's I love everything about that. That's part of being a dad, and I'm better off if I'm busy, and I love watching my kids do their thing. So hope you all did as well too. So hey, we're going to dive into an awesome conversation today about myths surrounding relationships. Is that what we decided on, Kristen?
Relationships, yes.
Relationship myths, which are so important. Myths. I was just telling Kristen before we came on camera, I love myths. Because if talked about appropriately, they lead to truths. And anyone who follows me on social media knows that I am a myth buster, if you will. I love watching people maybe come up with these myths in downtown Noblesville or around the city about things that are going on. I love to jump on those kindly. Just address them with factual information, So, and myths just kind of at times can kind of let you know the temperature of a community or even the temperature of a relationship. I'm sure you're going to dive into that too. When myths creep up, there may be other things under the surface that are boiling there under the onion that need to be peeled back a little bit. So I'm excited to dive into these conversations, be a myth buster with you today, and talk about how we manage our relationships and the myths around them. So hopefully you're excited as well. If you are a first-time listener or a long-time listener or viewer, thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions, chime in. We'll love to answer them, hopefully on the fly for you. We're decently good about doing those things. If we don't have an answer, we'll certainly find somebody who does and get back to you later. Or if you just want to say hi and let us know that you are listening, we always love that as well. Or if you have a myth that you want to address here, anywhere, relationships or anything else, put it on here. We're happy to help address them with you. So, but before we get started, as we always do, Kristen Boice leads us through a wonderful exercise called square breathing. So, Kristen, take it away.
So this is the most important tool I teach. And people are like, you're going to do the breathing thing. And I'm like, just throw me a bone and do it consistently every day for a week and tell me how you feel. So the most important part of this exercise is to notice where you are in your body, is to notice, because when you get dysregulated or you get activated by something, the key there is noticing so you can shift into regulation. You can shift into trying to calm your nervous system and come back to center. So the key here is just awakening and noticing where you are versus regulation and dysregulation. So we're going to start with our feet on the floor. I kind of like to get settled in my chair. If you're standing, just feeling your feet on the floor. And we're going to take a big, deep inhale through your nose. We're going to inhale for 4. We're going to hold for 4 seconds. And we're going to slowly release out our mouths for 8 seconds, like you're cooling soup or with your kiddos cooling a cookie. So this can be beneficial to not only you, but your whole family system. Or if you're at work, your whole family at work. Or if you are any place else with a neighbor. This transcends systems. That's why it's so critical that if you can do this for yourself, it's going to impact other people you're around. So let's do 2 breaths together, pressing into your feet, that helps center your body. Inhale through your nose. Hold. And slowly release out your mouth. I'm already noticing the difference just in that one breath. Usually I recommend 4 to 5 breaths, but we're just going to do one more together. Big, deep inhale, pressing into your feet. Hold and release. So I'm already feeling the difference, and I invite you to go, what difference do I feel? And sometimes you might feel even a little more heightened. That means you need 3 or 4 more breaths. And once you start noticing your nervous system is calming, give it a couple more breaths till you fully feel centered, calm, and present. That's the key. Just notice so you can shift it when you do feel activated.
I always feel it, Kristen, kind of in my chest up in that area, which is the same area where I feel. I always view it as kind of the opposite of when you're triggered. You know, you've all been in that situation where something gets dumped on you and an emergency happens, and that instant feeling that kind of just washes over your body. This is almost the antithesis of that, kind of the release of that. So I always feel it kind of in the same area. I'm sure that's probably different for everybody, but I always feel it in my chest up when I really do that. I always tell too, I do this a lot in the car. It's kind of, especially on the way to work or kind of just before I walk into an important meeting. Every meeting is important, but some are more than others, you know, and I always try to do that just so I can bring my best self to wherever I am going. So huge fan of the breath. And sometimes I even joke about it at home, but at least it's top of mind for people to just keep thinking. It's so simple to do.
And what you're doing is you're working to get to that prefrontal cortex, which is the CEO of the brain, which is the most rational, regulated part of the brain. It's our wise adult self coming to the table. That's what the breath offers you, and that's what you just described.
Well, and if you have kids, you know that fight or flight that flipped, as you like to explain it there. You know, anytime you have a kid that loses their mind about something, trying to, what's the matter? Nothing, everything. You know, it's the constant. I'm like, well, we're not going to get anywhere with this. And Julie Jenson is really good about asking, are you sad or are you hurt? You know, trying to start there and differentiate. Not that, you know, we're the queen and king of parenting, but that's her move, which is amazing. She's an amazing parent. Kind of starting with that. Are you mad or are you upset or are you hurt? And going from there. So, because I'm sure your kids, you can never hardly tell the difference. I can't tell if they just, you know, were yelled at or they lost their leg. It's the same noise all the time. So anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about. But we could at any point in time. Again, let us know if you're listening. If anybody wants to chime in, let us know. We're happy to answer questions on the fly or say hi as well. So, but with that, let's talk about myths, the 10 relationship myths. We'll tackle them. We'll dive into them. We'll expand on them. And it's going to be a great conversation. I'm going to turn these lamps on behind me because they're driving me crazy that they're not on. But you start off with the myth.
Okay. I'm going to take it away. We're going to go quickly because 10 can take a while. So we're going to kind of move through them quickly. We'll go 1, and then we can see if there's any questions or comments. And then we'll go on to number 2. So I have my little list here. So I'm going to be referencing it because I always prepare for our Mental Health Mondays. Number 1, and this is a big one, because this is where couples come in and they're stuck. And this even happened. I was with a couple last night that he or she should know how I feel. He or she or they, whoever, they should know how I feel. And so I don't need to tell them again because they should know it. Whew, this is number 1. This gets us on a road to nowhere because we have an expectation, which is resentment waiting to happen, that they should be able to read my mind, or because I've already told them once, they should just habitually know how I feel in all circumstances. Dangerous. Because then we're making assumptions, and we know where assumptions can take us on a dead end road. And so asking, how do you feel? And then proactively sharing, because you were just giving an example with your kids, right? Are you sad or are you hurt? Great example of Julie Jenson kind of jumping in there. Telling your partner or whomever you're in a relationship with, it doesn't matter with your partner, exactly how you feel, even if you think you've told them 20 times. This is key. You've got to tell them that all circumstances are different, but we think they should know. Whenever you think they should, we're in a danger zone. So the shoulds are dangerous. So change the should to a could, and then be direct and clear. I call it compassionately direct and clear about how you feel with an I feel. I feel sad because I wanted to spend time with you, and the phone seems to be a barrier. to us connecting. Would you mind? Now I'm being clear about a request. I'm making a behavior change request. Would you mind putting your phone down so we just can connect? See how clear I'm being instead of, I've told you 10 times that I hate it when you have your phone and you're always on your phone. I've told you how much I hate you're on your phone. Feel the difference?
Oh, yeah.
Such a difference in how you approach it. So that's number one. Okay.
I will just chime in there right there. I think, I've used the phrase, I'm not a mind reader. Not even just in my marital relationship, but in the community relationship. I don't know if you don't tell me. And I think that the example there is, do not be afraid to drive home like a broken record, how you feel, and do not assume. Love
exactly. That. And being clear about it, because once you start kind of him-hawing around or we tiptoe around, well, I really wish we would. No, I would like to go and have dinner and put our phones down. Clear and direct, rather than, well, I thought you were going to ask me to dinner and you didn't. And see how the difference feels? It's very passive versus being clear and direct. And our nervous systems respond well to clear and direct. Mm-hmm. And I'm not being harsh. I can be loving and kind and compassionate when I'm clear and direct. So I don't want people to think, oh, you're just going to be nasty. Now that's not clear. That's not what I'm offering. It's got to be compassionately clear and direct. Okay, we're going to move on to number 2.
All right.
We will not have any conflict, because those are bad, unhealthy relationships. That is a myth. Busting it right now. That means we're not really bringing how we really feel to the table. So I'll have couples come in, they've been married 25 years and they're like, yeah, I'm not in love with them anymore. And they're shocked. The other person's like, excuse me, what? I had no idea. Well, because they didn't really say how they felt, because they were afraid of conflict. They were afraid of rocking the boat based on their childhood. That's going to lead on a road. That's going to also lead on a dead end road, because you can't have connection without authenticity on the table, without vulnerability at the heart of it. So conflict, and I don't mean unhealthy conflict. I mean conflict.
That's what I was going to ask. What does healthy conflict look like?
A healthy conflict would be, hey, I feel really sad because I feel like we have this disconnection going on when we're always on our phones. Well, don't use the word always. Going to backtrack on what I just said, when we're on our phones, and I would love to put our phones down and have connection. Some would perceive that as bringing up conflict. Like, ooh, what, you don't want to do that because the other person's going to get upset and get defensive because they're going to justify they're on their phone for work or whatever. So they're not going to bring it up because they're afraid the other person's going to get upset or mad and get defensive. And that is avoidance. So when we avoid having hard conversations, that's the myth buster. We cannot avoid having hard conversations, but people say, well, we shouldn't have any conflict. No, that's actually healthy, because we're bringing to the table how we feel, and healthy relationships can do truth and vulnerability. Mm-hmm. So that's where couples can get into like, ooh, we shouldn't have any conflict. No, you're going to have conflict. It's how do you work through it? Do you have the skills to work through the conflict and the ability to access your wise inner adult self to say, oh, I can see that. I could work on putting my phone down. Thank you for sharing that with me. I will work on that.
So quick example, last night, kudos to my wife, who I love. And we got into a little tizzy yesterday about something stupid. And last night I was like, hey, can we call a truce on that? Are we done? And she's like, you know what? I really want to talk about that a little bit more. Let's put a pin in it. And we came back to it an hour later and discussed it and moved on. And I was like, that was awesome. I was super proud of us for not just like, no, because there was clearly an underlying conflict there. And it was kind of that choice. Do you have the conflict? Or do you just, okay, yeah, fine, we'll go to bed. But then it's just going to still bubble up inside you, right? So we're able to like an hour later, revisit it and again, talk it out and move it on. So it happens. And it was a much cleaner conversation than it would be to just put just wash something under the rug and move on, because it's going to resurrect itself later. So
you got it. Because you saying that, when people think, you know what, let's placate people, like just say what they want to hear. So this fight, quote unquote fight, I don't even call it fight, but this conflict can be over, because I'm so uncomfortable with conflict, is not what we want in relationships. Mm-hmm. We don't want to avoid it just to keep the peace, right? Because it's not really keeping the peace, to your point. It's still bothering you on the inside.
Sure it is.
And it does affect the connection in the relationship, because you never really dealt with it. You just kind of shoved it under the rug and went on. And that's really what I'm talking about in this. We cannot shove things under the rug and hope they go away.
Yep. All right, I'm slowing you down. Sorry.
No, you're good. Okay. Number 3, we will like all the same things.
Mm.
This is where people think, well, we were going to, they're going to like to also do water sports, or they're going to also like to run, or they're going to also like to do crafts, or not true. And it's healthy to have your own likes and dislikes, and it's okay. Now you'll kind of overlap and, a Venn diagram. You might find some things that you like to do together, and maybe you don't, and that's okay. Like, we have these expectations that we should like everything the same. No. And you have to work on, how do we compromise? Perhaps there'll be situations where you might not like to do something, but you end up doing it because your partner likes it. And that's okay too. So there's no absolutes. People come in with these expectations of the movies where we're going to like all the same things and do all the same things. Not really true, because you're two different humans with two different likes and dislikes, and that's okay.
I don't even like movies.
You don't like movies?
I don't even like movies,
Yeah,
and so but I think your point is being respectful then, though, and finding common ground and being respectful of your partner or your person you're in a relationship with likes and dislikes.
Exactly. Not shame them. Like, oh, you don't like that? Well, what's wrong with you? That's not okay. So it's to your point, going, okay, that's all right. We can figure out something else maybe we can do together. Okay. Number 4, we would, here's the thing. Relationships should be easy. That's the bottom line. People think relationships need to be easy and flow. There are life circumstances that happen. There are deaths. People lose a job. People have conflicts in their family system, and it's not always easy. You have unexpected tragedies that are not easy, and we have to be able to face the emotions, the grief, the loss, the sadness, the anger, the fear that come up. And it's not always easy. That's the myth. In relationships, people have situations that they might have buried from the past that get activated in the present. And they have to be willing to kind of own that and face that and work through that. But it's not always going to be easy. I mean, especially if you're with someone for a long period of time, it's not easy. There are bumps in the road. And if you're willing to work through your discomfort over facing those emotions, that's the key. So this myth that it should be easy and breezy, I just want to go, you know what? That's not true. Not all life is easy and breezy, and relationships certainly aren't always easy and breezy. Now, do you have certain times where things are lighter? Absolutely. But we have work stress, we have kids stress, we have family stress. And if we ignore that and pretend it's not there, it's going to manifest at some point in the relationship.
So would you say it's fair to say that those that have an easy relationships are ones that are able to manage their conflict and understand and respect each other better?
There's a willingness to own your own stuff.
Yeah.
That's the key. Those relationships are the ones that stand the test of time. They're willing to own their own stuff. They're willing to look at their defensiveness, and they're willing to say, you know what, I want to grow and I want to help you grow, and I'm here to grow together. Those will last the test of time because we do evolve. We do change. Maybe you got married young. Maybe you're in a situation I'm so sorry. That's supposed to be on Do Not Disturb. So here we are. That was one of my kiddos. So when you're in a relationship and you kind of come into it with these expectations that, you know what, it's going to be easy and breezy, and you may be young in the relationship, to my point earlier, and here we are, and we go, you know what, I've changed, you've changed. How can we support each other in our own growth? That is key. So supporting each other as we evolve and change in our own growth. Okay, number 5, talking about the past will only make it worse and bring up uncomfortable things. So I don't want to go to the past. I don't want to talk about the past. I don't want to talk about my family system. I don't want to talk about my hurts and pains from childhood. And I'm here to tell you, it will keep you stuck in your past. So you think, well, I feel stuck in my life. There's probably something from the past that hasn't been tended to, that hasn't been dealt with, that hasn't been nurtured. And so the key here is you have to deal with our past. And I know that's hard for people to hear, but here's the key. Last night I was talking to my dad, And he was telling me stories about his past. And you know what he said? He was so stressed at work. And he said, thank you for the therapy session. I said, oh, Dad, this isn't therapy. This is just me using curiosity. He goes, I feel so much better. Thank you for asking me about my childhood. I didn't expect that whatsoever because I thought, ooh, I don't want to tap into his childhood and maybe I'm going to bring up something uncomfortable. And you know what? He's 80. It was a relief for him to say, hey, I thank you for asking me about this. And I'm glad we got it out. And I feel a lot better because you're not suppressing it. You don't even know you're suppressing stuff, but asking people curious questions with love and curiosity, you can't underestimate that in your relationships. So it's important that we're talking about our wounds, our unmet needs, our hurts, and some excitements from childhood too, right? It's not all good or bad. There's windows in there that might be some things that happened to you that you want to share that were positive. And not to make it all about you, but go back and forth, share about what were your hardest points? What were your hardest memories? What were your best memories? What do you remember from your childhood? Some people don't remember a lot, and that's okay. Okay. So number 6, this is important. Getting married, and then we're going to have children, and it's going to make it better. The next step, we get the house, we get the kids, and the kids are going to make it better. Here's the truth. Marital satisfaction is an upside down bell curve. So if we look at it, when you first have your first kid, marital satisfaction dips. This is what people don't know. Not it's the kid's fault. It's the stress. It's like a change in the system. You got financial pressure. You got unmet needs of these kids. Maybe they have health issues. I mean, there's so many things, unknown factors, but marital satisfaction goes down. Here's the other truth. Now, this isn't always the case, but I'm trying to give you statistically. When you have teenagers, you're at the bottom of marital satisfaction. And especially if you haven't dealt with your own stuff, it can activate a lot from your own teenage self that needs to be dealt with, especially if you have more than one kid. There's a lot going on, right? I mean, you got 4, there's a lot. I got 2, there's a lot going on there. And then when they launch, you're going back up into marital satisfaction. A lot of divorces happen down here at the bottom because there's a lot of change. Attention goes towards the children. It's hard to do marriage and the children or a relationship. And so people think, well, have a kid and that'll be great. And that'll make the marriage even better. I'll have another kid.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the truth. That's a delusional thought, right? But we think that's the next step. And the truth is, having kids is a lot. They have a lot of needs that you have to meet in order for them to develop appropriately. So that's one that's hard to hear, but that's the truth. And I look at my own life and thinking through, did I think through, the impact of children and their unmet needs and what's required? Well, no, I was excited to have kids. So, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's really important to know the statistics around that.
Well, I said, I struggle with, because when you have kids, you get excited and you kind of pour into them. But the hardest challenge for us is how do you still manage your relationship and your marriage or your partnership, whatever it looks like, while still being a great parent. You can't, or you end up being all of a sudden married to someone you don't know on the other side of that, I would imagine. Exactly.
Okay. Number 6. Are we on number 6? Yes.
7.
Number 7. Number 7. We're on 7. You're right. Never go to bed angry. Have you heard that? Yeah. Never go to bed angry. That sounds great.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to put yourself to bed and tomorrow's a new day. Like you're not able to access your rational prefrontal cortex. You're kind of in the brainstem in that fight, flight, or freeze. And you keep pushing. Probably good to take a break. 1, take a break if you need to, and 2, sleep on it and go, you know what? I'm not fit for consumption right now. And I need to put myself to bed. I've said that before. I'm like, I can't even get to where we need to go because my brain won't allow me to. I'm too exhausted. I'm too stuck. Can we regroup tomorrow? I love you and I care about you. I can't think right now. I can't process this.
Question on this though. So do you think though it's important? I hear what you're saying. I struggle with this one a little bit, but is it important to verbalize what you just said and be able to say why I'm not going to address this right now, why I'm putting myself to bed versus just like going to bed? Would you say that's a very important piece?
Very important to communicate it. I
could see the fear and loneliness on the other side if you weren't able to at least address why you're going to bed.
Exactly. And if you have this agreement up front, like Mark and I have this agreement up front, If one of us feels like we're not capable, we've talked about it ahead of time. So it's not like in the moment, we haven't already talked about this. I said, if one of us feels incapable of doing it, and whoever says, I need to put myself to bed, I'm going to say something I don't mean, I am not in a good space to kind of process this, can we regroup tomorrow? That person's responsible for following up. So if I say it, it's on me to then follow up the next day and say, hey, I want to regroup. I want to circle back. I was exhausted. I wasn't in the right space. And what you said matters. And is this a good time to follow up?
Yep.
So yes, communication is key to regrouping and reconnecting. But it's okay to take a break. Like people have heard, don't take breaks, don't go to bed angry. And I'm like, you're going to perpetuate a pattern because that person is in their inner child and not in their wise adult self. And if you're dealing with their adaptive child and not their wise adult self, you're not going to get where you need to go. So it's okay to take a break as long as you communicate why and when you're coming back.
Got it.
Otherwise, that can land as abandonment, rejection, and not end well. Okay, so we're on number 8. This is the key here. Okay, we will not. I want to say this in a way that paints a picture. When we get together in marriage, we think that we're going to have sometimes this Disney relationship, right? And when we decide and we set these boundaries, like I'm not going to talk about it. Okay, that's a myth. We can't not talk about something. We have to face it. So an unwillingness to talk about something eventually, like you gave me an example where you're like, okay, can we kind of come back? You said yes, or she said yeah. You said yes, and you came back and you revisited it. That's healthy. That's important. So having a boundary, but then saying like, I'm never going to talk about this again. Okay, now if you're hyper fixating on something, that's one thing. But if it's something that needs to be addressed, it's an unhealthy pattern, it's important that you come back and work through it. How are we doing on time?
We're good. We have 3 minutes.
We have 3 minutes. Okay.
All right. 2 more.
Happy couples have sex all the time.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
There.
Not true. So that's a myth. So if you have sex issues, that's a whole nother topic that we don't have time to cover right now in 3 minutes, but we have sex all the time is not realistic. Okay. It's just not realistic. It's not how the body is wired. That can tap into something deeper that needs to be addressed. And I deal with a lot of sexual issues in couples, but having sex all the time and that's a myth. That's not true. Couples, all right. Some do. That's fine. But that's not true in general.
Okay.
Okay. So see, it's a big one. Okay.
I'll leave all personal comments on that one off. So we'll go to number 10.
That's a whole nother deeper topic, but that's okay. Number 10, final one. Look at us on time. Couples therapy means your marriage or relationship is in trouble. Absolutely not true. It's actually a sign of health, vitality, and you actually want the relationship to thrive. And I took Mark, I don't know if you know this or I shared this, but 2 months into dating, I was like, how about premarital counseling? He's like, okay, whatever. It was the best investment we ever made. And I highly recommend that you shift your mindset around therapy is not as your relationship's in trouble. It's the opposite. It's actually you're facing, you're processing, you're dealing with what might feel like disconnection in the relationship. And it may or may not work out, but at least you have done things and you're willing to proactively, now there's on the front end, to change some of these patterns. So I always recommend therapy earlier rather than later.
Consider it a date. You use it as time, one-on-one time, and have somebody referee your concerns for you. It's very healthy. I think that's a great myth to end on right there.
Yes, you learn skills. It's skill building that you might not have had.
Yep. I love it. This has been probably one of my most insightful conversations, Kristen. This is incredible. So
really? Okay.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I think there's something for everybody in this conversation today, and I love it. So hopefully you play it over and over. I know we're averaging about 1,500 views every couple of weeks, so I know a lot of people are watching it over and over and sharing it with their friends, which I love. Share it with people. Let them dive in and see all these myths. And if you have any further questions, comment to Kristen and I, reach out to us, let us know how we can help you. But Kristen, thank you so much. Real quick, if somebody's in crisis right now, where do they turn?
Here's the key: 1-800-273-TALK, 1-800-273-TALK. That's suicide prevention hotline. They are available 24/7. And July 15th, there's going to be 988, which is kind of like 911. It's called 988 for mental health. I don't know exactly. They're saying it's going to roll out the 15th. We'll see what happens, but it's supposed to be like the 911. But for mental health, it's 988. So I wanted to mention that today, as that's approaching mid-July.
Yep, and you're going to see a lot of promotion about that coming up over the next several weeks. I mean, that's a nationwide initiative, so you're going to see a lot about that coming up, which is great. Again, completely normalizing, destigmatizing that conversation. You call 911 an emergency, you got 988 for a different type of emergency. So I love it. Thank you, Kristen Boice. You're amazing. We'll be back here in 2 weeks for another edition of Mental Health Monday. In the meantime, stay hydrated. It's going to be hot out there. If you're in Noblesville, we are offering cooling shelters starting today at Forest Park. Reach out for help. Check in our neighbors. Take care of one another, and as Kristen Boice would say, be well. So, Kristen, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.